Well, hello everyone, and welcome to the Billy Dees podcast. I am absolutely thrilled that you are here, and our listens anymore are coming from more and more places. I'm telling you, the podcast platform landscape is getting bigger by the minute. You can find the Billy Dees podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Stitcher, CastBox, Podchaser, and down the line. I always try to mention some of these because I don't want to have anyone feel, I heard Billy Dees on Player FM, and he's always talking about Apple Podcasts, and every single listen means the world to us here at the Billy Dees podcast, and it's hard to acknowledge every single one in every single place. But we try to make an effort in general terms just to show our appreciation, because the audience means everything here at the podcast. Outside of Ohio, our listens in Ohio are always fairly strong. But outside of Ohio, Mountain View, California, another place that just continually lights up on the map. Oh, man. What's up, Mountain View? So glad you're with us. And Canada, our friends up in Canada, the Great White North. Hello from the Grand Ohio and the Billy Dees podcast. So glad you are here. Kind of a short, condensed version this week, coming off of Thanksgiving. That's kind of an odd week. And I wanted to, as far as everyone's schedule with who we're interviewing and stuff, it just seemed that sometime later was better. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk one-on-one with you about kindness. Lenora and I were live last week, and if you didn't catch that, here again, it was a holiday week. Try to give that a listen, because she has some just wonderful insights and a philosophy about kindness and gratitude. Those things are so important. And I wanted to follow up this week with a one-on-one only because I've witnessed some things online and off in regard to masks. And I'm not going to get too political today. And it's a shame that we have to talk about masks in some political fashion. That's just so bizarre to me to begin with. But it comes back to this thing about kindness. You know, we talk about kindness in such grand terms, especially during the holidays. Everything's about love and generosity. But when it comes right down to it, you know, someone is trying to pull out in traffic in front of us, and what do? We lay on the horn. We give them the finger. You know, just tapping on the brake a little bit and giving them a little motion. That's too much. We can't do that. And to me, that's the thing about kindness. It doesn't have to be something of great sacrifice, although it's if you want to do that and you can financially do that, or with your time, if you have huge chunks of time that you can give to somebody, that's fantastic. But generally, it's the everyday things like I just described that can mean so much to somebody. And, you know, there's that old saying that we never know what cross or what burden someone is carrying. We never quite know. And then in this day and age of COVID, so many people are being hit financially. They're being hit with things that they ordinarily did for social interaction. They have to stay home. They can't go out, and maybe they're working from home, which in and of and by itself isn't so bad, but it's just less interaction and depression and other things and stress. You know, it's not just a matter of worrying about whether you're going to catch COVID or not. And here again, I know this is a political issue in terms of how many people are getting sick, and it's not fine, but I'll leave that out of the commentary for right now. So many people are in hospitals, and the ICUs are getting, in Ohio, that's becoming an issue. But even if you're not being directly affected by COVID right now, and I certainly hope that no one is battling COVID in terms of their health, but the stress of worrying about it and the peripherals, the financial, which is, it's hit me financially. I'm way down from what I was last year because I can't go out and do things. So much of my on-location stuff has been curtailed. And there's people out there who have it so bad financially. People who work in restaurants and other things. And the being alone is so difficult for some people. And the stress that all of that brings, the bills, the loneliness, it can be a lot for people. And when you can't pull out into traffic and some jerk is laying on their horn and then giving you the finger, that's all of a sudden so much worse. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we should all be giving each other a break. Why should we be making things so much more difficult for each other? I don't understand that aspect of it. You know, I've said it before about kindness doesn't cost anything. You know, easing up on your brake a little bit, or you know, tapping the brake a little bit and giving someone a break in traffic. It doesn't cost anything to do that. It doesn't even cost you really any time. It doesn't make a difference in when you get there. And even if it does, are we really talking about something that you want to inflict hurt onto someone else, aggravation onto someone else, when that little break can come at just the right time for somebody? And knowing that you can make somebody feel good by giving them a break like that can make you feel so much better. I mean, when you lay on the horn and give someone the finger, I mean, I suppose there's some satisfaction that comes from that in certain situations. But as a whole, does it really make you feel good? Does it really warm your heart to do that to somebody? And see, that's the thing about kindness. Not only does it not cost anything, but it takes so much less energy than being hateful, than being rude. I mean, and it makes you feel so much better. The return on investment, as they say, the ROI, that I get that from a lot of my associates. What's the ROI on this? The ROI on kindness is very good. The return on investment is fantastic. Try it. Make an effort to do it. And when some hatefulness comes your way, when somebody does cut you off or flip you off, let it go. You know, maybe they're having a moment. They just found out that their electric was turned off. Or maybe their kids are home from school. They're having a hard time balancing and taking care of their kids and going to work. They were in a hurry. And in that moment, they just cut you off. Let it go. What are you gaining by making that situation worse? What are you gaining by trying to confront that person? Nothing good is going to come out of it. And I'm one for cussing a lot in traffic, but you know what? I don't confront people. I very rarely do that. I let off steam in my car, and that's kind of my way of, and sometimes I'm funny. You know, I string together a bunch of profanities and some rhymes, and if I had a backbeat, hey, I would be having a pretty good tune there, man, you know? And I have those moments to myself. I let off steam, and sometimes I entertain myself, but I don't let it impact other people. And if you have to do that at home, you know, if you have to go home and punch the pillow or do somersaults in your basement or whatever it is that you do to let off steam, that can be, you know, sometimes a healthy thing. And you don't have to impact other people. You don't have to inflict your frustration onto other people who probably, there's a good chance, already have their hands full. So, getting back to that kindness thing, I believe it's a mindset, and it takes practice. The first time you do it, it's kind of a special occasion. And then in the second time, not so much. And then as you go on, it becomes a way of life for you. You feel better throughout the course of the day. You feel better about yourself. And things that come up in your life that are truly aggravating don't have as much of an impact. So be kind. It makes you feel better. And here's where I'm going to bring in masks. I don't know how the issue of masks became political. I really don't have an explanation for that. I often joke that if aliens invaded the world, politicians would be pointing the finger at each other. You should have known they were coming. And the other side would be saying, well, they're coming because of you. You asked them to come. And the thing with masks is this. Back in 1919, you can find pictures of people wearing masks. This is not a new idea. When we had the last flu, the pandemic of that time. This is not a new thing. And here's where there's confusion. Let's set aside for a moment how effective masks are. It is true that any virus is incredibly small. And a virus can pass through almost pretty much anything. In the right situation, a virus can pass through a condom. This idea of safe sex is kind of a misnomer. It doesn't really protect you against things that you can catch from just contact of the skin. And even in terms of fluids, viruses are so small and so incredibly, versatile. It's safer sex with a condom. It's not safe. 100% safe. And I wouldn't advise people not to use one just because there's no guarantee. Masks probably are not as effective as stopping a virus, certainly, but they are mitigating. Okay, masks are mitigating things. And when you wear a mask, you are protecting other people more so than you are protecting yourself. And I know there's been a lot of chatter online about these different studies that show that, masks aren't effective. Well, that's usually for the wearer of the mask. I don't know if there's a lot of data out there that talks about control groups around people who are wearing a mask and possibly have the virus. That's probably a little bit more difficult to determine. But here's the thing. Virus or no, what a mask does do is prevent aerosols. And what an aerosol is just like when you spray something, it's a spray. And a sneeze is probably the worst example of that, but a cough is also. And even speaking, when you're just talking, there's little particles that come out of your mouth and travel through the air. And what a mask does do is it mitigates that because viruses like to fly around on little particles of moisture. And who wants to have any type of spray? I worked in retail for a while, and one thing I could not stand was somebody standing real close to me and they, all this, it's gross. I didn't want to be around that before there was an epidemic and a pandemic and whatever else. Before all that, it was going on. I didn't like it. And when you walk into a store without a mask on and you believe in your mind that your rights are being violated, which is totally ridiculous. Anybody who has an establishment can tell you to wear shoes when you walk in, can tell you to wear a shirt when you walk in. And wearing a mask is not a violation of your rights. It's not. But let's presume it is. Let's say you really and truly believe that someone asking you to wear a mask is out of line. Let's go back to this kindness thing. That retail worker that's working in that store, they're not getting rich standing at that door. Okay? They're probably just barely making a living. And they're living probably a very modest lifestyle, as many of us are, who have any type of a job. It's difficult right now. Like I said, I'm in a position where I'm hurting, and I know a lot of people are. And if you're working a job and you just want to get through the day, do you really need some wannabe Rambo in your face about you telling them to wear a mask, and they're going to fight you on it? They're going to go on their own personal maskless crusade. Is this really something that we need to do? And it might be more than that for that retail worker. That retail worker might be in a situation where people are leaning over the counter all of the time, making payments, asking them questions, showing them coupons, whatever, and they constantly have people breathing in their face. And a lot of times you can feel someone's breath and it has moisture on it. Is it really that hard to walk into a store and put on a mask, even if you believe that it's not doing any good? If it makes that person's job easier not to have to tell you to put one on, if it makes that person's job easier not to have particles of moisture flying in their face while they're dealing with the public, if it makes that person's job and life easier, why wouldn't you do it? I don't understand that. There have been times when places in the world, including the United States, have had to make great sacrifices for things that are going on. During World War II, what's often referred to as our greatest generation, it wasn't the people who just went and fought the Nazis, but the people at home. There were so many restrictions on things you could buy and things you could do because all of those resources were badly needed. And now all we're asking is when you walk into a public place, just put a mask on. Is it really a violation of your rights? And I'm not even going to get into the people who are talking about a sign of the devil and the mark of the beast and all that. It's hard for me to believe, and I don't want to go negative, but it's hard for me to believe that we're living in the year 2020 and something like masks and vaccinations somehow or other get tied into the activities of the devil. This is the year 2020. We brag so much about our technology. We have these smartphones and we have this and that and the other thing. And we're still in Salem, Massachusetts. Many of us are. In terms of the discussions we have about what we need to do in our society. If you're, some people might have some very good and legitimate reasons to criticize vaccines, but I haven't heard any yet that involve the devil. Not in my opinion. But anyway, is it really worth it to be confronting people about wearing a mask? As the cliche says, this is the hill you want to die on. Wearing a mask in a store for a whole 15 minutes when you buy a bunch of food that probably isn't that good for you. It's probably doing you a lot more harm than anything else while you walk in there to get your junk food. Is it really asking that much to put on a mask? Is this something? Is this what you need to fight about? Is this what you need to champion? I'm not sure I understand that. But there are other things in life and in our society that are worth fighting for. There's lots of them, as a matter of fact. Take your pick. Being asked to wear a mask isn't one of them. Be kind. We're heading into the holiday season, which can often be a time of loneliness for many people. Their families are gone. They've had deaths in the family. And now with COVID, even less interaction at work and at other places. Some of them may be going through very difficult financial times. That's very likely. Let's be kind. We have enough to deal with. Let's hope that next year brings some sort of relief to COVID-19. Let's hope that next year brings in some better economics for a lot of us. And no matter how long it takes to get there, and it will get better. It will get better. But let's make sure that journey to get there is as hassle-free as possible. Let's make it as easy as possible. Let's make it easy on each other as much as possible. Let's be good to one another. Let's give each other a break. You know, you walk into the store, somebody has to come up to you and say, hey, you can't come in without a mask, man. Just put one on. Tell the guy, hey, have a great day. I appreciate you. I appreciate you doing your job during these times. I'll be glad to put a mask on for you. Have a great day. Imagine what that would mean to hear. If you're in that position, how wonderful that would be to hear. Instead of some BS about your rights. Anyway, I'm Billy Dees, and I certainly hope you enjoyed our podcast today. And as always, you can tweet me. I'm real easy to find on Twitter at Billy Dees. And you can also find the Billy Dees podcast on Facebook, YouTube, and other places. The vast majority of our listens come from Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I always want to say hello to that community, as I mentioned at the top of the program. Communicating with me, though, my social media home, I would say, pretty much has to be Twitter. Been on there a long time. And Facebook, you can leave the Billy Dees Podcast Facebook page. You can leave comments and whatever you need to do right there as well. And YouTube, Billy Dees Podcast on YouTube. I'm Billy Dees. Next week, our interview with Christine Hall is on tap. And if that doesn't quite work out in terms of scheduling, we'll have something else for you next week. Have a great week. I'm Billy Dees. Thank you for listening.